Yeah, I feel like everything else is reasonable. What's something you think you wouldn't think about me?
That I wouldn't think about
You
you?
wouldn't think yeah, something to the question, like what would be something that would be crazy in your mind?
Hey, watch my daddy's movie.
I said, see, it's a couple niggas every generation that wasn't supposed to make it out, but they decode the matrix.
Mhm.
And when they get to speak, it's like a stolen language. Or it's like a coded language.
Coded language.
Reminds niggas of their strength and all the stolen
Stolen
greatness. Yeah, that's clear, right? I think it means,
Yeah.
to me, it's like, you know.
It's just a lot, dog. That's hard. Alright, so I'm gonna start with artists. Greatest R&B artists. I'm gonna say greatest artist of all time, period. But for me, it's Michael Jackson, man. Mike Jack. Mike Jack is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, I never knew music until I heard Michael Jackson. I don't care what comes out, Michael Jackson is the greatest artist of all time for me. But I think people obviously will argue that he's the greatest of all time, period. So, yeah. Greatest R&B album. I'm not gonna say a Michael Jackson album, even though I want to. For me personally, I have to go with Confessions. That's my personal. There are greater albums, but Confessions, I mean, it was filled with great writing, amazing production. Even had some guys come and spit. It was a great some great guys put a lot of work into that project. Some of the greatest writers, still to me, some of my favorite writers wrote on that project. It's still regarded as one of the greatest R&B albums of all time. So I gotta go Confessions, Usher. And then song. I hate that question because it depends on how I'm feeling. Ooh, I still don't have the answer. I'm gonna go. I go back to Michael Jackson. I can't pick, bro. I can't pick. I can't pick a song. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna go Thriller though. I'll say Thriller. Michael Jackson Thriller. It was so many elements musically outside of just R&B that influenced that song. So I'm gonna go Thriller. I'm gonna go Thriller. So where am I from? I was initially born on the north side of Jacksonville. We call it Adis. I was born there. I spent like my first 6-7 years there, and then I moved to what we call Mixon Town, right? The beginning of the west side, right outside of the north side. Sits kind of right outside of downtown. It's in a cut, basically. This is the place that I feel like molded me and shaped me into the person that I am. Me and my mother moved here with my grandparents, my grandmother, my grandfather. I think throughout the time we was here, probably like 6 or 7 years. We had cousins live with us. I had cousins across the street, great grandmother across the street. I had my entire family on my mother's side in the house with me or like across the street from me, basically. And those lessons that I would say I learned about family, about like going through whatever you go through, having a family can be a very nasty thing. But if your family loves each other, it can be a very healing thing and a very beautiful thing to unfold. It still can be disgusting, but I'm grateful for my family, man. To this day, man, I don't know where I would be without the majority of them, honestly. So, being from this area, it was a lot of kids in the area at the time when I grew up. Spent a lot of time outside. I mean, if you were born in the 80s or born in the early 90s especially, you know what it's like to go outside until the street lights come on. You know what I'm saying? You know what it's like to not let the good AC out your grandmama's house or your mama's house. But those times, man, like, I learned how to socialize. I learned how to be around people. I learned how to get into fights and not get into fights. I learned how to how to deal with craziness around you and still keep your sanity even at a young age. I learned how to do homework with craziness going on around me and focus. I learned how to focus with craziness going on around me. So I mention my grandfather a lot when I talk about growing up, especially in his house, because me and him spent a lot of time together. Just car rides with him. I went to James Weldon Johnson, which at the time was by that Popeyes on King Street. And it's a magnet school, but in order to get to the school, sometimes you had to catch a couple buses. Like, I had to go catch the bus to Lee, and then from Lee I went to James Weldon Johnson. So like, I had to get up mad early. It used to be like super dark around the corner, like around the entire corner, and my mother was at work. So he would walk me to the bus stop like every day. You know what I'm saying? We'd have our little talks. I get back home from school, go to the corner store, play his numbers. But like, we spent a lot of time just talking. And he was a very real and raw person. He probably said everything he said probably I shouldn't have heard, especially the way he said it at my age. But I'm grateful for hearing it because he's not here. You know what I'm saying? He didn't get to see me have my first kid. He didn't get to see me, hell, I got married and divorced, but he didn't even get to see that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't get to see me join the military and you know what I'm saying, go to college, but he taught me so much about things I needed during those times. So if he didn't talk to me earlier than he should have, I wouldn't have those lessons. I wouldn't have the understanding that I have now. He just taught us about what it means to be a man, and he was a very flawed individual, I'll be honest, you know what I'm saying? But he knew that. He was honest about that. And he would still tell us, like, I want better for you. He would tell us small stuff like, man, don't drive flashy cars because people out here want what you got, you know. He would say stuff like that. He's like, man, granddaddy, if I get money and I can see a car I want, I'm gonna get it. But he was trying to tell us certain things for a reason. Like, all right, if you live in a certain area, cool. But even that, people are crazy. He was just trying to warn us about, like, the realities about being in this world. He ain't never go nowhere without that pistol on his hip. Nowhere. But that was his way of protecting us. I got you, son, grandson. You know what I'm saying? Nothing ever gonna happen to you when you're around me. Like, I felt very protected and loved by him. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Missing Town, I saw a lot of crazy stuff. You know anything about Missing Town, if you're from Jacksonville, you know, like, it's a lot of stuff going around here. I saw FBI raids in my grandmother's front yard. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the age of 8. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was seeing this stuff often, and it make you ask a lot of questions. But as the child I was and the family I grew up in, like, nah, we don't talk about that. So we talked about it with each other, my cousins and stuff. So, anyways, yeah, I grew up in Missing Town. I feel like it made me a versatile individual because I went to schools that were smart. I was around people that were smart that maybe came from affluent neighborhoods, but I lived in the hood. It didn't feel like it because I was surrounded by love and I had everything I ever needed, you know what I'm saying? But it gave me the best of both worlds. I was a smart kid who was raised in the hood, who wore glasses and looked like a nerd, but, you know what I'm saying, drug dealers, they got me. You know what I'm saying? I'm having real conversations about life with them, you know what I'm saying, as a preteen. And it helped me understand, like, what it means to, quote unquote, be book smart and street smart. To understand, like, those lessons that you learn from that. So, yeah, man. Born and raised in Jacksonville. I feel like I was really raised in Missing Town, though. And I spent the rest of my years after that on the South Side. But that's why I say those years are so important. Because I learned lessons for myself when I moved to the South Side, but I learned lessons like hard lessons while I was over here. So yeah, man. See, you hear that music? You hear that? That's what I grew up on, man. Real quick, sorry, I mentioned my grandfather. That just made me think about it. Some of the car rides that we took, he would always put me on games. Sometimes he wouldn't even tell me who would listen to. He'd just pop the tape in and we listened. He was playing Al Green. He was playing Sam Cooke. He was playing The Temptations. You know what I'm saying? He was playing Otis Redding. Like that, he always had good music around me. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of started my love for music. So yeah. All right, something that people may not know about me. One of them you might believe, both of them are true, but one you might believe and one I don't know. Some people are gonna be like, what? Some people are gonna be like, yeah. So one is I actually love hiking, right? I love hiking. I lived in Colorado for some time, and I'm from Florida, man. We don't got no mountains. Like, we got hills in certain places, that's about it. So I moved to Colorado, and my first week there we went on, it was it's like a work fun trip. And we went on a hike. My first, this had to be my first 4 days there. I was acclimated to the how high we were in the sky already. I had never climbed a mountain in my life. And I'm not talking about a little hike and you end up high. Bro, we was thousands of hundreds of miles. No, it was thousands of miles in the sky, actually. Yeah, it was thousands of miles in the sky. And it was if you look off to the left, you might fall and die type of shit. That shit was crazy. The rocks were kind of big-ish. So that's one. The second one that people might not know about me, and I don't do this often, but I know how to do, amateurly, I know how to do women's hair. I've put weave in women's hair. I've done 2-strand twists. I've done kinky twists. I've done box braids. I thank my grandmother and my ex-wife. I got to shout out to her too, cause that's why all of this. It started with my grandma greasing her scalp as a kid, and then that turned into hey man, I just need you to do it. I don't do, bro. I know. And then I did it. I did a whole head, and I've done a whole head a couple times. So I ain't no hairdresser, but I get your kick test right. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it over here for you. Got 2 enclosures.
Okay.
You see it about like this right here? I used to play them.
Yeah.
But that's when I used to make them windows shake over there.
Yeah.
When we had the black party.
Yeah, I remember.
I still got them 2 enclosures, but I wanted to put. They got these speakers. I always wanted to put them, but I ain't never had time.
Yeah.
But you might have time.
Maybe. I'm busy. All right, so my grandmother's house back there. This is my cousin. Call him Big Man. This is his spot. One of his spots. But yeah, this is his spot. And next door is where cousin Chuck live. Next door, cousin Les. Next door, Bernie got a little church house that he been doing stuff at for years, man. I believe he still do stuff. Right across from there, it used to be an old warehouse. I can't remember if they did furniture. I don't think they did baking. It's a spot 2 streets down by the church that did baking, but there used to be a warehouse called Draper's. It's now like a little party club, biker, I don't know, they do something. And then my great-grandmother literally lived right across. My great-grandmother lived right across the way. So my grandfather lived across the way the street from my great-grandmother, his mama. You know what I'm saying? And then next to her, that's my auntie Darlene crib. So literally, we own this whole block, have owned this whole block for a long time. So yeah, man, it's the hood. It's literally where I grew up. Bust my head, bust my butt, almost crush my knee on a bike on these streets right here, man. Learn how to play street ball, whether it's basketball, football, all right here on this street, man. So this is a very vital part of who I am as a person, who I am as DJ Larry Love, as Larry, man. This part is me. So yeah. grandmother.
Yes, still the daycare.
It started with grade
The baby woke up?
quality chicken.
The baby woke up?
Everything, not just the food,
course you
should be grade A.
A is for above and beyond.
Look at you.
A game.
From caring
She's like,
for
you
guests
stop
and
playing with me,
community to cleanliness and safe service with a
You got it going on. You got it. I think.
I'm secretary today.
Saying this when I'm in the shower, like every time, pretty much. Prayers every night. One to my mother, one for my father, and one for the love of my life. I know I probably won't put that. If you decide to leave today, only tomorrow at the door. Maybe half of yesterday. Forget all hope for the present. We just when we were 5 steps from eternity. Come on, Cisco. God damn, boy. 4 steps past love and reason. Sound better when I'm in the shower, but. Ooh, touching the heavens above. What? I'll go through this whole song, boy. Don't.
You better not stop. Sing my shit.
All right. So, R&B mostly. Boy, I be smiling cheek to cheek when I think about that shit. So, 2015, I was in transition, leaving active duty from the military and coming back to Florida. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, boy, your boy was kind of depressed just because it was just a lot. It was a lot to take in. The reasons why I was leaving were happy reasons, but my life was about to turn into a lot of uncertainty moving back to Florida. And my gracious homeboy, shout out to Mike Trey, that boy in Italy right now, shout out to you. I'm gonna send this to you when it's done. But he let me sleep on his couch. And not that I needed to, but I was in transition, so I didn't have housing at the moment, you know what I'm saying? So he was like, yeah, you can just stay at the crib until it's time for you to leave. So I'm at his crib, and he had the party spot at the time, dog. Everybody on the base used to all the black people on the base used to pull up to his crib, drink, play cards, talk shit. We just enjoyed ourselves. So I was happy to be around it, and it kind of had me in some high spirits, and I started going to some concerts in the city, in Colorado Springs where I was at. T-Pain used to frequent the city a lot because Denver was an hour away, and I end up, long story short, watching Love and Hip Hop one time, maybe a couple times. And and this white dude named Travis Garland came on the television. That shit just sounded like beautiful music to my ears, so I started following him. And for some reason, maybe a couple weeks later, I found out he was coming to Colorado Springs. So I was like, I'm gonna go to this concert. This voice is crazy. Go to the concert and meeting the dude. And we started kind of just chopping it up. It was a very small, intimate setting. So we talked for about 20 minutes. And I just told him where I was from, my military story, and he was like, yeah, man, my parents live in Ponte Vedra. Ponte Vedra? That's down the street. I'm like, yeah, man, my grandparents. He was like, man, I'm there a lot. And I was like, bro, have you ever been invited to perform out there? He was like, nah, never. Like, shit, I never really performed in Florida. And my mind started running. I was like, damn, that'd be dope if I could start bringing artists to Jacksonville. Okay. So from there, it literally sparked the idea of like, I was listening to a lot of new R&B at the time. August Alsina was kind of just starting to drop. Chris Brown was obviously in the bag like he always is. I think he had dropped Back to Sleep. And I was like, man, a lot of people feel like R&B don't exist. It would be dope if I could create like a little platform to prove that it does. And my event around it will be, I'll start bringing like what I call like maybe C-list R&B artists, and eventually work my way up to maybe B-list, and bring some of these artists on an intimate setting to Jacksonville, and that'll kind of go with the brand. So I created an IG page. Shout out to R&B Only. I did not know about them at the time, so niggas might think my brand is a copy of it's not. Like I literally ain't never, R&B Mostly, the idea behind it was everything I was listening to wasn't really R&B. It was R&B inspired. People were singing, but it might have been trap shit, you know what I'm saying? So I was like trying to figure out names, and I'm just on Instagram, and Mostly was open. So I was like, that shit sounds dope. Fuck with that. So I created the IG and started kind of just making like micro blogs. So I would post the album and I would talk about it. And IG was a different space at the time, and a lot of like independent artists started like finding my page and reaching out. It was like, hey, we see you writing this up, and I started doing mixes when I got back to Jacksonville, and they started asking me to put their songs in mixes, and that turned into like, started spiraling into this different idea. So the initial idea was just, I'm gonna put these mixes together like I did like a Joe mix. It was all Joe, and I just meshed it together in the program as far as DJing. The idea was like, I'm gonna create this buzz around nostalgic R&B in order to put people up on what I know exists that people don't know. R&B's dead, and it wasn't to me. So kind of fast forward, I become a DJ, I continue to keep the brand going. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make mixes and use the name R&B Mostly because that's the brand that I have. And in 2017, DJ Nate was like, bro, you should do an event. And I'm like, bro, I'm gonna do an event, but I gotta have money to bring an artist, you know what I'm saying? He was like, but you ain't gotta bring artists. You can just create an R&B party. And I was like, man, that makes sense. So we tried to do our first one, and the day we were gonna do it, not the actual day, but the physical day we were supposed to do it, looking forward, we found out that Nas and Lauryn Hill were coming to Jacksonville. And that hadn't happened like ever. So I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I don't want people to have to choose for the first time come to my event because they support me, they rock with me, or going to Nas and Lauryn Hill. Go to Nas and Lauryn Hill. And to be honest, that was probably one of the best things I did. It gave me another year to kind of like get my feet wet more as a DJ, as an entrepreneur, as a music connoisseur. And a year later, December, I want to say the day it was December 18th, I want to say. It was right before Christmas. 2018, man, we did our first R&B Mostly event. It was a smash, and every single one since then has been amazing. So shout out to Nate and Al Pete. Both of them really pushed me to create it, to take the brand and create a different event than what I saw. If you've been to R&B Mostly, you know it's 80% R&B and 20% Mostly. The Mostly consists of whatever we felt like playing at the time. Twerk music, Jay-Z, like dance music, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Soca, Afro beats, salsa, bachata, whatever we feel like playing falls into the Mostly, and then we go back to the R&B. It's a little different than your normal party. Your normal party, the R&B is kind of the time where you chilling. Go get your drink, grab your lady, hang out. Nah, the party is around R&B. You're gonna dance and sing at the top of your lungs to R&B. So that's the condensed version of R&B Mostly, because I can talk about that shit all day long. A top moment for R&B Mostly, I'll say two of them. The first moment was when I saw R&B Mostly becoming like people started reaching out to me, like independent artists from all over the country at the time, was showing me love, you know what I'm saying? It made me realize, like, damn, the reason I wanted to do this is like happening, and this was very early in the idea of R&B Mostly. I would say my second favorite moment was, I want to say that was October 2019. I just came back from deployment, Middle East. It was my first R&B Mostly while I was back. R&B Mostly kept going while I was away. Shout out to my team, Al P and Nate. I appreciate y'all for real. Yeah, man. shout out to everybody who held that shit down while I was gone. It was a lot to happen, and y'all really took it the way it needed to go. But the feeling of coming back home to a entirely packed venue and people like championing me for being gone, but for the moment of celebrating R&B and that they're there and I'm the reason that they're there. And that's not for me trying to, like, you know what I'm saying, take credit for the shit. But like that moment was super surreal because I'm looking out at the crowd and I'm like, damn, like all these people are here because of an idea I had sitting on the couch. You know what I'm saying? Like I was down in the dumps when I created the idea. Music was the only thing getting me through. So like, man, that was probably the most lit R&B mostly we had. The drinks were flowing and the vibes were perfect. The lights were, man, yeah. That was top 2 moment for me. So yeah, that's my story about R&B mostly. Keeping it short anyways. Yeah, that's it. So, how did I become a DJ? The technical answer. I've been in the military, the Air Force specifically, since 2012. Served in different capacities, and I made a transition to be closer to my son in 2015. And when I moved back, I had a lot of free time. Like, I didn't have as much custody as I have of my son now. And I just had a lot of free time. I'm a night owl. I'm up at night, and I linked with this dude named Lorenzo. Shout out to Lorenzo. He was doing, at the time when I linked back up with him, he was doing a Christian radio station. I think it might have been WCGL. I think that's who it was. That might have been somebody else. I can't remember. Maybe it was Pure Radio. And he started having me come to the studio, just kind of chopping it up with him, hanging out. I'm a music head, you know what I'm saying? And he was doing his show remote in the studio, pre-recording it and sending it to the station. And he would play songs for me, and it was like this real, like, his show was kind of like neo-soul Christian-y. So he would play like Music Soul Child and then a little Mary Mary behind it or something like that. And when he was playing some of the songs was dope, but the quality was trash. So I was like, bro, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm using this program and I'm ripping it down. And I was like, bro, you know you could just do this and rip it like that. So that started me helping him do that. And from there, I would suggest songs, and that turned into him having me in the studio like late night all the time. And I became basically like his music director kind of. And at the time, he was trying to revamp his brand, Soulbox Cafe. And it was basically what he was doing on the radio, but it was an actual event. So, you know, we're talking and I'm giving him ideas. We just talking, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, man, you know, it'd be dope if you DJ'd it. He just looked at me. And I was like, nigga, I ain't no DJ. Like, what you talking about? Like, he was like, I mean, but you know music and you can DJ if you know music, you know, whatever. So I ain't think too much about it. I think like a couple days later, I was like, that would be pretty cool. Had a little money. Went and bought me a little new Mark controller. And at the time, I had kind of already started R&B Mostly. But R&B Mostly was just like, I would take a program that I bought, Personas at the time that I bought with a mic, and I would just put tracks in there and kind of just blend them in and put my voice on it. So it wasn't too far-fetched. So I bought a controller. That turned into me downloading more music. That turned into me learning how to blend music with a controller. And then I had my very first DJ gig. A New Year's Eve party. How in the hell is your first gig as a DJ in front of actual human beings a New Year's Eve party? Any DJ who's ever done a New Year's Eve party, I don't care if it's 20 people or 5,000 people, you know New Year's Eve is a huge, huge night. And people who don't party all year come out on New Year's. Them transitions better be on point. You know what I'm saying? Like, that music select, this is my first gig. To me, I did terrible. But to the crowd, they loved it. We went into the new year, people was toasting. They rocked with I think the song I chose was, I don't even know the actual name of the song, but this is for my number one, fucking LL Cool J, for real. That was the song I played at midnight, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's how I became a DJ. From there, people saw it, and I ended up DJing with a band that was starting, and people started asking me for mixes and this and that, and I don't know, I just started building my confidence on it, started sharpening my tools and learning what it means to actually scratch and what it means, the art of DJing, and I started really becoming a student. And then I got around great guys like Al Pete, DJ Nate. I started rocking with some of the DJs here in the city. They weren't really fucking with your boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you that face. Y'all know why. But I'm grateful because I linked with some of the greatest guys I could have ever linked with and built my own brands from the ground up with some great guys. So yeah, that's the quick story, of how I became a DJ. Yeah. Let me go. Huh. One thing I don't like, I don't fucking like chitlins. They stink, bro. Like, I don't. First of all, when you think about chitlins, we're talking about, I know we eat a lot of weird stuff, but we're talking about like the insides, literally the insides of an animal. Like, we ain't talking about the meat, we ain't talking about the fillet. I get it, people will get weirded out by fillet. We talking about like the dookie hole and all that stuff. They stink. I don't even care how they taste. I've never tasted them. I've been around them my entire life. I don't like chitlins. I don't understand people who eat them. Your mouth probably smell like boo-boo. I ain't trying to come at y'all who eat chitlins. I don't get it.